Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the LFC Transfer Room. We are here today with another 7:30 stream. There is bugger all to discuss because it's been a very quiet day. Of course, there's international break, so as you know, not a huge amount goes on, but we are going to do what we can because, of course, it's Divock Day. Divock Origi debuted on this day, 2015, the beautiful man that he is. So we're going to just sort of go through all the latest news and rumors. If you haven't already, please make sure to click like and subscribe for daily streams every single day, 7:30. There's videos coming out more and more as well. We've got loads of content lined up. And if you are watching on Twitter, which I know a lot of you are, you've got to go over to YouTube and get involved with the comments. And we're doing a sort of Q&A thing at the end because there is not a huge amount going on, to just put it bluntly. Not saying click off because I'm not, but it's international break. We've just come to the end of it. The builds all for the Premier League. That will be discussed tomorrow because tomorrow is the build up for the Forest game on Saturday. And yeah, we'll just go through there. But yeah, we'll just go around. Reese, how you doing, man? You're good?
Not too bad. Just same old, working on the grind. Obviously, it's been quite quiet. I'm not really a big fan of international football. Minus the major tournaments. It's really annoying like that. So I haven't really been paying attention to. Obviously, I know. McAllister may have picked up a little sign, which is quite frustrating. But yeah, same old.
It's been a bit. If you don't like international football, it's essentially 2 weeks off from any sort of football related activity. Like I love international football. I'm happy to watch it, but it's not the same as the Prem. I mean,
Yeah,
Stitches, how you doing? Oh, go on,
major
Reese.
tournaments. That's all. That's major tournaments. And then for me, we've just had a major tournament and we've barely had 3 games and they come with international break. For me, that's just out of order for me personally. But yeah,
it is too much. I'm not being funny. The Nations League does not need to be a thing. The Euro,
that's a pointless tournament. It's just stupid.
Yeah, just money. That's all they want. Dollar and money, and it's absolute crap. Stitches, how you doing, man? You're good? Yeah, you're good.
Mute.
You're on mute, man. It's all gone Pete's tongue. Oh no, you weren't. Oh, wait, I don't know. We'll come back to you. There's no. Oh, there you go. We're all good. We don't prepare, just to get that clear. So go for it, man. You're good.
So yeah, I'm a mute. I'm not a mute. Yeah, international break. This is what it does to me. Do you know what I mean? I'm just not prepared, not ready. But I'm getting there. I'm switching on now. It starts with my fantasy football team. Obviously, I've got to sort that out for the weekend. Real football's back. I'm not a big fan of the international breaks. It's just not. You know, when Liverpool's not playing, there's not that much of interest. International break just brings anxiety, really, because all I'm doing is just looking out for our players and hoping nobody gets injured. That's all it is, and praying that it doesn't happen. I mean, I heard McAllister got a bit of a knock, had to go off, but was relieved to see that he played last night. Came on as a sub, I think. From my understanding, he came on in the 68th minute, so that's a good sign. But obviously, the other major injury during this period is Harvey Elliott is going to be out for a while. Curtis is back, and touch wood, whisper it quietly. We didn't get too many other bits of bad news coming in during the international break, and that's the best thing about this break so far. And obviously, we're going into a period of games now, which apparently is worse than the Christmas period because we're going to be playing 2 games a week for a long period of time. It's going to be a real test for Slot and his squad management. But I have confidence, I have faith that, he's going to be able to manage that really well. So, yeah, other than that, just glad to get back to business.
Ty, Arsenal fan, says, what are your predictions for Liverpool versus Nottingham Forest? That will be discussed in tomorrow's stream. We always do the predictions the day before, just so it's a bit fresher in everyone's memory. But tune in tomorrow for that, and you'll get that news. Jamie says, football's the world's game, not Liverpool's. Be thankful for world-class players. I completely agree. I'm a football. I love football in general. doesn't matter if it's Liverpool. I just obviously Liverpool's club I support and love, but I just love football in general, so I'm happy to watch it. But it's not the same. We just need that sort of, you know, Premier League, Liverpool in the Prem going for it. It's something different. Race, how you doing, man? You're good?
Yeah, I've been on it a while, but yeah, it's like you guys have said, the international break is a drag. Of course, over here, stateside, we have our football kicking off this past weekend, so I still had things to watch and entertain me. So I still feel, distractions from that. But yeah, I'm excited. I love having these Liverpool weekends where you got Liverpool to kick off the weekend, and I got all of my other stuff going on. So yeah, I'm excited to see them back. And it's tough to play 3 games, you play so well, and then we're off doing our own thing. It's good to have him back, and it's going to be, like you mentioned, a challenge. To for all these games we have coming up. Just seeing how the squad is rotated. Which games we kind of prioritize over others. I haven't even checked what exactly games the games are coming up, but it's going to be interesting to see. So at Milan, this can be our first Champions League game. Okay, so yeah, it's gonna be a challenge, but just looking forward to seeing the guys out there, and knock on wood again that all these guys are fresh coming back.
No, I completely agree. It's the international break is just such a crapshoot in terms of people can get really bad injuries. Salah suffered them in the last, a few ago, and he got injured during it. Players often get injured in these tournaments because it's a different style to what you're used to. The training's different to what you're used to. Your body just can't quite acclimatize. And thankfully, it's not happened too badly. Obviously, Harvey Elliott's out till I think it's the end of October. They're saying that he may be back in time for the Chelsea game, which is on the 20th of October. But there's no rush. Don't rush him back for it. It's just pointless. But yeah, end of October for that. McAllister did start for Argentina the other day. So whether or not he's badly injured, we don't quite know at the moment. There's not a huge amount coming out about it. And to be honest, I think the quieter it is, the better. So we'll go into the first one. Yeah, Jamie said cross world travel doesn't help either. Completely agree. The South Americans have it the absolute worst in that situation. What was that one? It was Diaz the other day, and he had something like it was less than 48 hours in between games, and he was flying as well. And it doesn't make any sense. It's a ridiculous time of the season to be doing it. 3 games in, and you're having to go abroad is ludicrous. So yeah, we're going to go on to Reece. Because I suppose the big talking point is Harvey Elliott. Of course, he's the one player who's come off of this worse than anyone. And he was someone who I think a lot of people were expecting to push on after this break. He was someone with so many fixtures coming up. Like you look at our upcoming matches, we've got Forest, then a week later we've got Bournemouth, a week after that we've got Wolves, and then it really does start to pick up following that international break. So we've got a lot of big matches coming up. And there were people saying, he's going to be the backup number 10. He's going to make his way into the team. He started to get minutes towards the end of the 3 matches before the break. So, where do we go from here? What's the solution now that we don't have Elliott in this squad at the moment?
Solution. I still think we've got other players because we do have quite a big squad. Obviously, it's unfortunate that Elliott's picked up an injury. It was even surprising to me that he didn't start the first couple of games. Because obviously in pre-season he was playing in the 10, and obviously he was kind of on fire. Personally, I feel he's more natural in the 10 than Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai's a good player, but he's more of a workhorse, whereas Elliott, I would say, technically is more flourishes kind of thing. But I think obviously Slot's still figuring out as well. You got to remember, he's only just come in. He's still figuring out. I wouldn't say he necessarily knows his best first 11. Obviously, he's got, from what it looks like, some people might say the first 11 he's picked for the first 3 games, that's maybe his best 11. But I just don't think he's trying to upset the apple cart or try and change things too quickly. Because obviously you've seen with previous managers at other clubs, when you've come in and you upset things and you start dropping players that were senior players, that's how you can end up losing your job. Like I said, I wouldn't be too worried. Obviously, hopefully, I wish Elliott a speedy recovery. But like I said, you've got Curtis Jones, you've got other young players there, Trey Neal, and you've got I'm trying to think. I can't think of the other names off the top of my head. But I wouldn't be like too worried. Like I said, I just wish him a speedy recovery. I think based the team that he's been picking so far, as long as he's kind of got that, I was gonna assume, but obviously I was assuming that because I did a video myself on my own channel like yesterday for the Nottingham Forest preview. I was assuming that McAllister is going to be injured. Obviously, fingers crossed he's not. But if he is, I think Curtis Jones will just come in on that left side, like for like.
Reese, what's the channel name, by the way, just so anyone can.
Reese TV. Reese TV,
right? Winner. So yeah, everyone go check out Reese TV. Go check out his content. But no, yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, Slot has sort of, in my eyes, I think he's got an idea of who he wants as his core group. But obviously, like you said, Elliott was starting to make his way in. I thought he'd get more game time than he did. But then you've also got Gakpo's on the fringes. Nunez has barely got a kick. And you think going into these Champions League matches and these Carabao Cup matches coming thick and fast that we would see a bit more of them. And it is unfortunate that Elliott's just the one of all the players that could have really got this injury. I think he's one of the ones that most people are disappointed got it, because he was sort of, there's so much expectation around Elliott. There's so much hype around him because he's such a talented player at such a young age. Whereas if it happens to, say, a Gakpo or a Nunez or something like, there's a sort of like, it's bad, but, we can cope with it. Whereas seeing Elliott get such a bad injury, when a couple of years ago we got an injury against Leeds, it's something about it sort of hits you a bit close to home. I don't know what it is, but yeah, stitches. I mean, is there anything to that? Like, is there a sort of, there's something about Elliott getting this injury that sort of hurts more than if it was someone like, say, a Gakpo, or not to say some are more important than the others, but do you get where I'm coming from? It's a bit more, you can feel it a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely, I do. First of all, sorry, before I delve into your answer, just to address one of our comments from Jay Muse, I hope I've been respectful. I don't know if I've said anything to upset anyone. That wasn't my intention. So whatever it is that I've said, you know what I mean? I'm completely trying to be respectful here. If it's about the international break, it's just my own personal, I'm not that invested in international football. Some others might be. I'm more invested in club football, that's all. But yeah, to get back to your question, absolutely. I think there is a lot more investment from our fan base in Harvey Elliott. I think we're all, he's a boyhood fan. He's come to the club at a young age. He's a young boy. He's really puts it in. I think last season he was supposed to be one of the most hardworking midfielders out there in terms of the ground that he covers. We're seeing him grow, with us within the club. So I think there's a lot of invested emotion from the fan base. I absolutely love Harvey Elliott. I hope he succeeds in the team. I struggle with it because there's this question about the 10. Do we actually play with a 10? I think we play with players that do the role, but we don't actually play with a 10. And I think that's his best position. And I think in pre-season, where we were experimenting with different formations, you saw Harvey playing in that role and really having a massive impact. And I think actually when the season started and we went to our stock formation, if you want to call it that, I think that's why he didn't start, because having him play that deeper role in midfield, whilst he's capable and he's really good at it, I think there are players that are ahead of him in that position. That being said, coming into this period that I just mentioned with 2 games a week, and the amount of games that we're gonna have to face, and the amount of ground we're gonna have to cover, I thought he was primed to get a start and play some of those minutes. So it's very unfortunate the timing of this. It's really unfortunate. I think he would have been one of the names that would have been in the rotation. But fortunately for us, at the same time, Curtis has come back from an injury, and he's going to be able to take up some of that slack. I think fortunate for us, that's one of the positions where we actually have a lot of options. So I think we can absorb that. It's bad for Harvey, but I think, it's something that we can manage. Definitely.
You touched on it there, that we don't, in a sense, sort of play with an out-and-out number 10, and the average position on the Man United game showed that actually McAllister was deeper than Gravenberch, and just above him was Soboslai. And we're so fortunate in that fact that Gravenberch could go further forward in that number 10 role if you need him to. Jones could go there, or McAllister could go there, and then Jones could play deeper. Like, we're not sort of pigeonholed where it's Fabinho, he can only play CDM. Henderson, he can only play sort of centre mid to a really good standard. Like, we've got such a fluid midfield that we can plop someone in that position and they are probably going to do a job in this system, and they're all capable of doing each other's role. Just some of them are better at particular roles than they are other roles. There's a comment from Jamie saying a host of clubs in Italy are taking a keen interest in Van Dijk's contractual obligations, or development, should I say. Yeah, I mean, we'll touch on that race because it's, like I said, guys, if you could get your questions in, we'll answer anything that you want. Just before we get onto that one for race, if you want to know our favourite players, okay, why not? If you want to know our favourite colour, if you want to know what my favourite brand of coffee is, just let me know. But yeah, ask anything you want in the comments, guys, and we'll get round to it. And I'll give that one to you, Race, because it is something that we've, Van Dijk, the contract situation has been spoke about to death, so we're not going to go too in depth on that. But I'd like to get your thoughts on Italy as a potential destination for him, because Italian football is, well, it's slower paced. In my opinion, I might be wrong. If anyone wants to disagree, by all means, let us know. But I think it's a slower paced environment. Maybe that'd suit Van Dijk as he's starting to, wind up his years. Like, what do you make of any move, a potential move to Italy? And if so, what club could you see him going to?
Well, of course, it makes sense, for any club to be kind of interested, or at least keep an eye on what Liverpool do with his contract or his status, because he's such a great player, and if he's going to be become available on a free, like every top club in the world, I would think would line up for his services. That they could bring him in and convince him to join the club. With the Italian league, one name that just comes to mind of players that were older, left the Prem, and kind of had success there was Chris Smalling. I think he had a little mini career revival when he went there to Roma, and he played well with them. Obviously, maybe not the Premier League standard that he was, but he's just one that kind of stuck out, and he kind of left and was kind of pushed to the back burner. But I think had a solid run there, and so yeah, like you said, slower pace, different style, more defensive league. You think of like. I think he would thrive in any situation, to be honest, but certainly a player that's getting up there in age would I think would appreciate a slower environment and just his knowledge of the game. He's such a intelligent player. I think he'd adapt anywhere. I think center backs, if you're at a top end level, you can play until your late 30s. Of course, we just saw Pepe with Portugal play. Was he 41, 42 at the Euros? He was old as dirt.
Yeah.
Like if you really are, a quality player and you're just a smart player, you can play, for as long as you want. So again, it goes without saying, I hope we can strike a deal with him. I imagine it'll kind of be a short-term deal, nothing too long at this point of his career. Maybe 2 or 3 years. I don't imagine it'd be like a 1-year extension. I mean, that would just be kind of almost pointless, really. It has to be multiple years, at least that's what my speculation is for Van Dijk. A different case for Salah and Trent, of course, but it'd have to be multiple years. I mean, he's the club captain, I mean, like, if you like, it's just, it's going to be a talking point until, it gets done. And, these international breaks, of course, for Rensu, because you're not really, I don't think there's much negotiating going on when they're away with their country and with the club. So, that's nothing's going to happen. So, maybe there's some time where the player goes away to, takes a little bit of a mental reset, if you will, playing these international games, whether they're challenging or not. Maybe some more, they'll feel more clarity on the situation. I know Van Dijk even spoke, over the summer about his future with, I think, the Dutch national team, and just very, very broadly on it, but just, that's on his mind. He's getting to that point in his career where he has to consider his future. So, I couldn't nail down a specific club, in Italy. I think, any of the top clubs would probably go in for him, realistically. Like he can slide in. He'll be your top center back, wherever he goes in, and he's a natural born leader. He's an excellent player. To get him on a free would be, an absolute bargain. Like, that would just be the move of the summer for whoever gets him. And so you just hope that. Go ahead, Stitches. Yeah.
I just wanted to throw two things on the table just based on what you're saying.
Yeah.
What we got to realize about football now with the sports science and everything is that the longevity of people's careers is increasing because they've got all this fitness and they know how to look after themselves. You're seeing players playing later into their careers now, the ones that are at the top level that really look after themselves. And I think the way that Van Dijk plays, he's very economical in terms of anticipation and winning the ball. He's very rarely making those long busting last ditch tackles. Do you know what I mean? And the way that we play, we're on the ball a lot. So I think that in terms of the wear and tear on his body, I think that can be managed. I think he's good to play top level football for maybe another 2-3 years, which is why I think it's very important that we give him a new contract.
Just to argue that one really, really quick. Sorry, just look at Thiago Silva. As an example.
Absolutely. And then what I wanted to mention as well is this. So I like to look for positives in negatives. So the negative was that he was assaulted by Pickford and got seriously injured. The positive is he didn't play for about a year. So that's a year of rest that, recovery, wear and tear, his body's regenerated in that time. So it worries me to even hear of other clubs sniffing around him because I think it's imperative that we tie him down. As it is, we do the same with Salah, and I believe we absolutely have to with Trent. So hearing that Italian clubs are sniffing, I agree with you. I think absolutely the Italian game would suit his style, and they're very much more defensively minded over there. I think it would absolutely suit him, but I don't even want to hear that. I completely don't want to hear that. I want to hear that we're renewing him and our captain's going to be around for another couple of years. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. And like you said, that's just down to his intelligence in the game and just being in the right spot, never being caught out of position. Like you said, he's been such a Iron Man for us, and really outside of that one harsh injury with Pickford, I mean it's really been a clean bill of health for him. So you just worry that as he gets up there in age, like he hasn't had a long break from football in how long, right? He's been at international tournaments and whatnot, and so it's I agree, he can definitely play for as long as he wants, and still has a lot left in the tank, I think.
No, I completely agree. There's a Van Dijk, and Stitches touched on it perfectly. You're not having to see him do those big busting runs, and that's because he's got Kanate to do it for him. He's got Quansah to do it for him. Van Dijk's job is not to be the physical prime specimen where he has to outrun everyone. You look at just some examples. John Terry, who was able to keep it going because while he declined physically, mentally he was ahead of where he should have been. He was able to position himself. Thiago Silva is another one. Pepe, I can say he positioned himself well. He did, but he did still have that physicality. There was a tackle he made at the Euros where he sprints right the way back to that touchline. And he's such a good player that he could keep going for another few seasons. And I wholeheartedly agree that the thought of losing him, especially on a free, it's out of the question. Paul says Chinese or Indian your go-to meal. I'm Indian personally. Mine's a chicken vindaloo. I love spicy food is like top tier. Reese, I'll give you that one as well, and then I promise there will be a football question straight afterwards. But what are you
Indian as well?
What are you going for?
I like spicy food. Indian. I don't mind the Chinese, but I prefer Indian.
Chinese.
No, I don't mind Chinese, but I prefer Indian spice.
Yeah. No, Indians the absolute winner, I think. Jamie says butter chicken. This is what happens when it's an international break and there's not a huge amount going on. But keeping it with you, Reese, I mean, we'll give you this one. Comment on the Gravenberch pass. Now, obviously, if you've seen the pass that he made, that one where it was a cross field, it was out of this world. Mohammed went very close to the camera then, sorry. But, my question for you is, why is it, do you think, that Gravenberch is suddenly looking like this terrific player? Is it because that ability is there? Do you know what I mean? It's just Slot seems to be able to unlock it at the time of going. Is it in the past people just haven't been playing to his strengths? Is it Slot has developed him well? Like, what is it about Gravenberch that seems different this season to what we've seen in the past and how he's got to where he is at the moment?
I think it's a bit of both. Obviously, it's 100% work on the training ground because the players are always practicing. But I also do think that the style of play Slot is playing is more suited to him because we look like we're more going in a direction where we're going to be playing like more football, more kind of maybe to like a Pep Guardiola. And that's nothing against Klopp because obviously we still played football, but it was just way more intense all the time. Whereas I think it's going to be intense in spells. So yeah, I just think we're playing to his strengths. And for me, Gravenberch reminds me in terms of his attributes. He reminds me of a Pogba in terms of how he can like carry the ball, how he can receive the ball in the half turn.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's quite he's quite slim, tall, very athletic. So, but I also feel that not all of our fan base, but even some people, all football fans, a lot of people have been sleeping on Gravenberch because obviously people forget that obviously it didn't really work out by him, but he was someone when he was at Ajax, he was rated very highly. Like, I mean, people were ranting and raving about him a lot. So yeah, I just think more the style of play just kind of suits him, and maybe because he's Dutch as well, I don't know, he's just kind of giving him more of a chance.
Yeah,
And keeping it on him for you, man.
Yeah.
Like, are we like, obviously he's been playing this deeper role, but we see him pick up the ball from deep and run at the opposition defense. Like, he gets into number 10 position. So with that in mind, man, like, if we do sign number 6, would you want to keep Gravenberch as a rotation option in that number 6, or would you like to see him play a bit further up the pitch?
Is that for me? Yeah, is that a question?
Yeah,
for me?
yeah. Do you, and then ask the same thing around the room.
I would only two positions. Like I said, I would keep him as an option there for the 6, but then I would play him as well potentially further forward as an 8. I don't think the 10 is his position. I think that's too further forward. I think he kind of needs to be more in the mix. But yeah, 6 and an 8 for me would be the 2 positions.
Stitches, man, what you're saying?
Listen, Gravenberch, I've been having discussions about this guy all week. All right. I saw Koeman's comments, and I've seen Koeman's comments about people that have gone to Saudi as well. Can't stand the guy. Like, I met him once, long time ago. Not a nice character at all. Right. So, first of all, that comment of him being lazy or questioning his psychology, it triggers me. And the reason it triggers me is because we're talking about elite level sports here. So the journey to get to this point requires so much mentally, so much mental resilience and fortitude for you to get to this level. So to have someone questioning his mentality in the way that they do, like, listen, there's levels to it. Even within the elite level, there's levels to the mentality. If you look at someone like Bellingham, and you look at that, is one of his super strengths, his mentality. He has absolute belief in himself, absolute confidence in himself. Someone else might not have that, but that doesn't mean that they're not mentally strong. So I completely refute or hate those comments about Gravenberch. To talk about why are we seeing him unlocked right now, I think that sometimes in life, you meet people who are able to communicate things to you in a way that it makes sense. And that's not a detriment to people who've come before, but they just might have not had the right language or the right sentences to get you to understand your job. And if you look at Slot and you listen to him dismantle Man United in 2 minutes on that interview with Sky Sports after the United game last time out, what I took out of that is this guy is able to express his ideas coherently, very succinctly as well. Right? So in 2 minutes, he was able to break down a tactical play. If he's communicating with Gravenberch in that way, and perhaps simplifying the instructions in a way where Gravenberch absolutely understands what he's supposed to do, I think that might be why you're seeing the result. And as I said, it's not a detriment to the coaches that have come before. It might just be his style of communication works right for Gravenberch. Because what then happens as a kind of follow-on is confidence. We underestimate how much confidence means to players, whether they're pros or not. If you're confident, you do things without thinking. when you're not confident, you might take an extra touch. You might overthink situations. You might have to be more in your head when you're playing. He looks to me to be a player who's in the zone. He's in that place. He's calm, is qualming, whatever. He's yin is yanging, whatever you want to call it. He's in that place where he just does. And as a player, if you look at him technically, he's extremely gifted. He's extremely athletic. He has the ability. And Reece, you mentioned that he reminds you of Pogba, and I can see why you say that. But for me, I see shades of Gini in him. I see Gini Wijnaldum. I see just the way he uses his body to protect the ball, the way he takes it on the half turn. He beats players with his first touch. Right? I've seen him receive a ball in the air and just dink it over the player's head. The player didn't even know where the ball was, and he was off. Right? And I think he's been unlocked, and we're seeing levels of his game that the potential was seen years ago, but now we're actually seeing him realize it, and long may it continue. And I think you have to give Slot credit for being able to unlock that in him. And, you know, I hope there are other players within our team, which I hope he's able to do the same job with. But yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and long may it continue, because it's, you know, it's so nice to see him finally playing a style of football that suits him. And in Ajax is very much, it's a technical looking game at points, and I think this is benefiting him to no end, as opposed to just being an out and out box to box, pick up the ball, run. That doesn't seem to suit his style. The way he's going on this is he's showing his passing capabilities. Race, I mean, I'll ask you the same sort of question. Obviously, you know, Gravenberch, get your quick thoughts on him because we've pretty much discussed them, but then I'm going to give you first crack at this one. With Man City's 115 case start on Monday, what are your realistic expectations for an outcome? Now, obviously, that's a broad statement. Of the 115, from what I understand, about 40 of them are probably going to get written off because they're just minor, like they're nothing, and City have actually already got loopholes around them. But what do you think is going to be the outcome with that? If you want to discuss Gravenberch to begin with, you can do. Don't feel like you need to, because we've said quite a lot about him. But yeah, what do you make of that, and what do you make of the Man City, you know, fraudulent mess of a case that this is? Like, yeah.
I did want to touch on Gravenberch, but the City stuff, I mean, I'll just say money talks. I don't have any doubts that City could just swindle their way out of this, you know, like they have in the past. And I don't have faith, you know, until I really see. I know, you know, Everton and Forest have gotten their point deductions from other things, and like I you know, a top end club to have this many charges, and you know, I'm not banking on them have any sort of, you know, point deduction or penalty or anything like that. I think that would be, you know, it's very hopeful, but you know, if it happens, then I'll be pleasantly surprised, and you know, that'll be awesome. But if not, you know, it is what it is. You know, we know how it is there. But for Gravenberch, I mean, I'd also, you know, like to remind, you know, people that he is just 1 year older than Harvey Elliott, who we all think is, you know, this brilliant youngster and supremely talented player. And Gravenberch is just as youthful as he is. And it's been tremendous. And, you know, Stitches was talking about just the you know, the person and the player, you know, going through stages of his career and kind of life in general. You know, for him to, you know, go to Bayern, just not really have a good season with them, and just kind of right away realize that, you know, he's not in their plans, and then kind of switch your career again, you know, going through that change, you know, as a professional, again, when he's that young as well. I mean, that's a big change. Like for him to come, you know, go to the German Giants and then come to a top end club in the Premier League, like that's a lot to deal with. And then he comes in, you know, as, you know, he's not really a featured player. He had a good run in, you know, good, you know, bursts and good spells here and there, but nothing too consistent. Again, you know, down to maybe some, you know, we were kind of unsure where to play him and kind of his role and how we played. But coming into this year, you know, having you know, I know he was with the Dutch, you know, the team over the summer, but, you know, really giving that full preseason and certainly having a Dutch manager doesn't hurt things. You know, there has to be some sort of, you know, connection there, whether you want to, you know, admit it or not. There's something to that. And as it just said, you know, the communication, you know, Slot's just, you know, hopefully it's just kind of getting through to him a little better than maybe it was with Klopp, and just kind of the different nuances and how we play, you know, maybe not as intense, a little more technical, which I think suits Gravenberch. And then the confidence as well, you know, that incredible passes he had, taking on the half volley. I mean, again, not thinking, just boot it up the field, see what you can do, and bam, it works out like that. I mean, that is that is a sign of a player with a lot of confidence at the moment. Again, but I will caution as well. There's the other side of this is you don't want to get too ahead of yourself and then be reckless out there and all that. Because there is that side of younger players and playing well. So this form won't last forever. There's going to be dips and turns in form and whatnot. But for now, it's tremendous. It's looking well. You just hope that he can become that number 6 that we really are searching for, and hopefully by the end of the season, it's not really a big move we have to make. It's something we don't really have to go in for, possibly in January and next summer. Then that's a buy. And the price we got him for, it would look like a tremendous bargain. I mean, that would be incredible. Similar is like a similar fee of what we got for McAllister. It would just be a brilliant piece of business by us. So yeah, I'm really excited to see him just hopefully this could be a breakout season for him. Again, knock on wood, injuries and whatnot, but he's certainly looks to be a special player. He's got the size. He's a big player there as well. He's very technical. I love the Pogba comparison. It's he really is. From a year coming in being just kind of they've got this youngster, see what he can do, to now like, oh wow, this guy has some talent and he could really be a force in midfield. It's just such an encouraging development.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like Jamie said, you hit it with the right word, confidence. He is showing so much confidence, and it's nice to see that he's not another young player who's sort of like Renato Sanchez, just the first example that popped in my head, where he's got all this hype and build and expectation, and he goes to Bayern Munich and it just doesn't work, and then he can't get a good go at another club. He did all right at Lille, but yeah, it's so nice to see that he's managed to get out of that club. He's came to us, and he's finally, if we can. We all want a number 6. I still want a number 6. I'm sure everyone does still want a number 6. But imagine what that does for the confidence of him, that the club goes, right, we have you. We're fine. Like, that's going to just give you so much confidence going forward that the club are not desperate to sign that player because you're doing such a good job. And that's a true testament to how well he has actually been doing. Next question, because we've got Jamie says here, perfectly. Leave a comment / question in the panel / chat, guys. Really, just anything you want to know. It's been a slow news day. It's the international break, of course, as we were saying before. Jamie says, what music are you listening to currently? I'm going to see Slipknot in December, so at the minute they're on my thing at the moment. Other than that, chasing status at the moment as well. I mean, Reese, you're getting all the weird ones, but music at the minute, man, what are you listening to?
I listen to a bit of everything. I don't really want to go into detail. Obviously, minus rock music and dubstep, and I'll say, what else? Opera, everything else. I can't listen to a bit of everything.
What's wrong with a bit of opera, man?
No, I never said there's nothing wrong, but I'm just not at that stage yet. I haven't I ain't reached that stage in my life yet. That's all.
If it comes on the radio, it's coming off. But yeah, I mean, I'll give you then with the City thing, because the preliminary discussions around it are that City are pretty much just going to get a slap on the wrist. They're going to get told, naughty, don't do it again. But realistically, and it's going to be easier for us to just say, bugger to them, relegation. But what is an appropriate punishment for them? Because obviously we don't know the ins and outs, but a fine doesn't do anything. No. Would it be relegation? Would it be strip them of the titles? Would it be a point deduction? Like, what is the realistic outcome that we should get?
All of them that you just mentioned, all of them.
Everything.
It has to be the worst. It can't be, for me, it can't be money, because you see, money's not an issue for Man City. I mean, it's like when players get fined for like breaking the law. It's like they're millionaires. What are you giving them a couple thousand fine? That's nothing. You need to kind of hit them where it's gonna hurt. So like, same with footballers, more time is better. If you give them a ban where they can't play football, that's where it's gonna hurt them. For me, Man City, like I said, they need the title strip, they need point deduction, a relegation. Like I said, similar to what Racist said, I don't see them getting it. I can see them getting off because they found a way to worm their way out of things before with the lawyers, and money does talk. Unfortunately, that's what makes the world go round. But yeah, they have to get for me everything. They can't get a little minor like don't do it again, because they're not going to learn from that if they get that. But yeah, I'm not really confident that they're gonna get the ban that is supposed to be, like the justice that's supposed to be served. I don't see it happening. I think it'll be like a brown envelope sent under the table to the Premier League to be like, yeah, just give us a little slap on the wrist.
Well, we saw that that European ban they got, and it was literally just they paid off the 2 million or something like that, and it was like, okay, well,
this is
done.
What's that? Yeah, I remember that. I was fuming about that.
Yeah.
They got off that on a technicality though, didn't they? Because there's a time bar on the evidence being submitted. So what they did is they procrastinated the case. They delayed, and then when it went to court, some of the actual evidence couldn't be submitted because it was beyond 5 years of the case. So that's just lawyer play. That's a criminal club. I'm sorry if I upset Man City fans out there. It is a criminal club. I'm agreeing with you guys in terms of rationality. I look at it and I think to myself, they're going to get away with it because money talks. But there are so many angles to this in terms of the credibility of the league, right? Which is the fundamental thing. Like, you have to protect the credibility of the league. And as far as I'm concerned, it's like running a 100-meter race and you're running and the guy in the next lane to you's got anabolic steroids, right? When that gets found out and they do the drugs test and they get caught, they lose. They're stripped. They're disqualified. They lose the gold medal if that's what they've won. So I'm with you, Reese and Race. I think they should be hit with everything. They should be relegated. That they should be scrapped. The leagues that they won at the time when they were committing these offences, they should be stripped of, and all of that should happen to them. It should be an example as to why you don't cheat. But I don't believe that the FA has the cojones to see it through. I just don't. And I think that the quality of lawyers that Man City are able to bring to the table, you're talking lawyers that represent countries out here. You've got the countries that's behind Man City meeting with our Prime Minister to discuss this case. It's that level of power that they're able to bring to the table. And then when you look at it from a commercial angle as well, how is it going to work if you do sanction them, right? Because if you're a team that could have won the league that season, right, you would have got X amount of prize money from winning the league. You would have, got additional. You could have affected sponsorship deals because you would have negotiated a higher sponsorship package than what you did because you're negotiating as league champions, not as a second place team, right? So there's all of that coming into it. If I'm a team that lost to them that season and got relegated, I'm asking questions. I'm like, are those results valid?
Leicester
Right?
did that. They got relegated and Everton stayed up, and then Everton got a point deduction.
Yeah. So you look at all of that, and it's like, where does it stop? Where does it stop? Where's the reset button? I think they need to go to Italy and look at how Italy handled it when they discovered, cheating and corruption in their league. It was a root and branch exercise. They cleared the decks and sorted it out. And I think sometimes we have an arrogance here that corruption doesn't happen in our league. If you take the way, because it still burns me, I feel emotional about it, the Tottenham game last season, the way that game went down, and then you find out that the referees were in a certain country getting brown paper envelopes to referee a game when they're meant to be working the professional game, and who benefited from it. You start thinking, when you look at that, and then when Liverpool say we want it to be looked into, the whole football fraternity turns against us. Like, you can't question the viability of our league or the credibility of our league. But the reality is, it makes me feel you've got something to hide. If you don't want that scrutiny, that tells me that something's not right, and you don't want to be open about it. So I already question the credibility of the league sometimes, because I look at some of the decisions that happen and I just think this, and it's let's not even use Liverpool's.
You have nothing to fear.
If you've got nothing to hide, investigate. Like, Sending us out a doctored video where there's other people involved, but you've taken their voices out. It just shows that there's something smelly going on.
The
Do
corruption.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
There's
you're
corruption.
right. You're right.
Listen,
Stitch.
wherever
Right.
there's this much money involved, there's gonna be a level of corruption. So for people to turn around and say our league, it can't happen in our league, although it's happened in Italy, it's happened in Spain, it's happened in other leagues, it's kind of arrogant to think we're so holier than thou.
I'm sorry, but the actual governing body of football itself is a corrupt institution because FIFA has been done for things. If the actual foundation of the sport from 1904 has been handled by a corrupt organization, not saying that's when it was corrupt, but obviously blah blah. If they are, anything beneath it can be. So, it is one of them. Paul says, let's call Saul. He'll sort them out. Absolutely. I've never actually watched Better Call Saul. I've seen Breaking Bad a billion times. I've never actually watched Better Call Saul. He also says, do you think Pep will leave at the end of the season? Now, Grace, I'll go to you with this one. I'll give my 2 pence on it before... Yeah. Go on, man. What was that? Sorry?
No, sorry. I was going to say that depends on what happens with the charges. That's what I feel.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. I think on one hand, I do think Pep is a bit scared of what's going on with this because there was that interview he did. I can't remember if it was the end of last season or the start of this season where he was like, "Oh, I might be gone." He didn't sound convinced. Talks of a contract have apparently stalled. Nothing's progressed beyond just a simple meeting. I do think that Pep will probably leave regardless of what happens, but I think if they do get found guilty, but he'll be gone by then anyway. So yeah, I think Pep's going to be, because they're not going to get charged for this for like another year and a half, 2 years, I think they were saying. So I think Pep goes this summer. I think this is the last season with Pep Guardiola. Hopefully, because then the Premier League can get back to what it was, which was actually entertaining. Race, I'm going to give you that one, and then I've got 1 or 2 other things which we're going to ask before we close off. But do you think that Pep Guardiola leaves, keeping in mind that the charges for City are not going to they're not going to give him a punishment for like another 2 years from what I've heard. So do you think he will leave, taking that out of consideration?
Well, there was already some, speculation even, or like there's been, for a bit that this will be his last season, of course, being out of contract, and he's achieved everything, at Man City. He's won, every trophy you can. I mean, what more, does he, personally, accomplish?
The only 2 things he can do is a quadruple or an unbeaten season. They're the only 2 things he's got left.
Well, they flaunted a quadruple years ago when they won the Community Shield as one there. So yeah, I'm just saying. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there really isn't. They've already cemented themselves. Whatever we want to say, about them and the charges and all that. In history, in terms of what they've accomplished. A great run of seasons for them. A real have run this league for some time, and it is nice to say that the one team that beat Man City in this era of their dominance was us, to a Premier League title. We have that, if there's any, solace, not we were the one team to beat them at their own game. We took them to the final day multiple times. No one else has stacked up against the City team, possibly, that was cheating, basically. We can say that, for us at Liverpool. But yeah, I think, even though possible, penalty for them wouldn't come a couple years down the road, I think they would still have maybe an indication what would happen, internally. So it's not like they wouldn't officially get it, but they would have an idea of what that would look like. So that would, I think there would be enough knowledge if that eventually what his decision comes down to, I think they would have enough, info on that to make a decision. But I do think that this could be his final year, and whether they win the league or not, of course, they're heavy favorites again this year. I don't think it really matters again, because he's already won, everything he possibly can as a manager in the Premier League. He's already, put himself as one of the, the all-time greats, if you will. Even though I think it's a little overrated, just given that, the squad that he inherited and their situation, all that, I think like Klopp, clears him as a manager personally. But it's really it's easy to see why he wouldn't want to stick around, and it'd be really interesting to see who would take over, how that transition goes for them. especially, you know, with these charges coming up. I mean, it really could all just kind of crater together. I mean, it really just could be Pep leaves, the charges come and all that. And then, you know, you're left in the dust. And then, you know, it's then, yeah, like you said, we can get back to having a proper league, you know, just kind of a just proper way of running it. So I certainly hope he leaves, you know. I wouldn't be you know, I'd like to see him gone, and I'd like to see that whole City team disassemble, because again, I don't think there's a single person, you know, or a single fan base, you know, outside of Man City that's like, you know, that almost like appreciates what they've done. Like as a dynasty, like you have these dynasties in different sports, right? You have like, you know, the New England Patriots in NFL football over here. You have like the Golden State Warriors, what they did. Like who like appreciates what the City have done over this time, like in terms of like a true football fan. Like the way they play, it's so boring. You know, Holland gets all his goals against smaller teams. He never produces in big games. You know, they're just such like a boring dynasty that no one roots for, and no one's gonna look back and like, oh man, remember those City days, man. No one's gonna like honestly, like Klopp's teams are more notable than what Pep and City have turned out in these last few years. I know I'm ranting a little bit, but I'm just, you know, City's on my mind here, but yeah, it's just like I'm just kind of disgusted by what they've done. And again, whenever they win the league, no one cares. Like I rooted them for win the league last year over Arsenal because, like I said, I want us to be the only team that's beaten Man City at their own game in their period of dominance. So that's something that we can hold. We can, you know, hold proudly. I think, you know, if there is, you know, maybe it's loser talk, but that really it's true. It's the truth. We dominated the league that year.
No, you're right.
If not for the COVID shutdown, we would have had the greatest Premier League team in history, most points ever. You can't convince me any otherwise. It's just, you know, the more I see the reactions from other people about Man City, the more faith I have in the game, because people recognize what City have done isn't like, you know, tangible or like legit, if you will, or, you know, I want to say like an asterisk on it, but like it's, you know, people have like a disdain for them and like, okay, City, whatever, you did your thing, cool. We don't care. You're not the United teams under Sir Alex Ferguson. You're not, you know, us win the league, you know, those Chelsea teams, whatnot. You're not, you know, no one thinks of you like that. You did your thing. You played the game. You did whatever. And now it's like, you know, whatever happens on these charges, people already have their opinions on what City have done. Like that's not going to change. You know, people already, you know, think they're guilty, even though whatever happens. So we'll let history decide how this City team is played. But I hope Pep does leave, and I expect him to leave at the end of the season.
More respect for a United team that had the likes of Nani in it and Antonio Valencia and Raphael winning the league than I do a Man City team that won it with 100 points. Like when people think back on the greatest teams that have won it or the most historic teams, City are probably going to be up there. They probably have had the best team in the history of the competition, but it's at a point now where it's like, well, who really cares? Like, look what you've done to get there. Whereas you look at Chelsea 2003 to 2005, Arsenal, Invincibles, United's amazing teams, Leicester, like City just don't compare as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, well, they've done incredible to a degree, but when you're having to break that many rules to do it, it's not. It doesn't hold up the same weight. The most impressive thing for me will always be that Chelsea team who won the league by conceding 15 goals. That you can't cheat that. That's just pure talent and ability. And then you look at this City team who, yeah, they might beat every team 6-0, 5-0. So what? Who's asked? Like, who really cares? Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely, it really does. Paul says, I think DJ Neville will convince him to go to Salford. I mean, more power to you if you do, Pep. I'm going to be honest. We'll go to Reese with this one, just as we're sort of closing up. Will Trent sign a new contract? Now, this has been discussed a billion times, but I've not heard your thoughts on it, man. I mean, what are you thinking? Is Trent staying? Is Trent going? What do you think in these final 5 minutes that we've got?
For me, he's staying. I'm very confident that he's going to stay, because people got to remember he's a Scouser. So people, if you kind of understand what that is, like remember with Gerrard was about to leave last minute, but then he didn't leave. I'm not saying Trent doesn't leave at some point, but I don't believe Trent's going to be leaving right now. I think he will.
Yeah.
And I think Edwards and the committee and Hughes and that are in the process of sorting them contracts out. Like right now, hopefully all of them contracts should be done, like God willing, fingers crossed, by January. I think looks like they're trying to get Salah sorted first. But yeah, I think Trent will stay because I do think after Van Dijk, he's the next one to be captain. And like he said before, when he said that, when it was like a shot at City, he said it means more to us. I don't know if you don't remember when he said that even though we only got one league in that time, it means more. It's just different. And I've always said this whenever I speak to people. I respect everyone who's into football and whatnot. I just think it's different when you support Liverpool. I can't explain it. It's just, if you look at the comebacks, like I remember growing up watching, I think I was like the last year of primary when we were losing 3-0 to AC Milan, and I was crying at half time to my dad. And then we came back, like and then you see the thing against Barcelona and certain things. I just think that it's different whether you win, lose, or draw with Liverpool. And like I said, more so because he's a Scouser and he's actually from there. I don't see him leaving. I do think it was a new deal.
No, I completely agree. Jay Muser said that he thinks it's going to be 60-40 stayed, but it will be tight. I mean, maybe. I don't think money is going to factor in too much to this, but maybe it is. He's the third highest earner at the club. Maybe he feels like he should be on more. He's the vice captain, and he's got more to offer going forward potentially than a Van Dijk does, or maybe even a Salah to an extent. Like, that's up for debate. That's something that we can discuss. Man of the match for England in both matches in the break, which, by the way, Paul Scholes said in the overlap that he thinks that Slot doesn't like Trent. Have anyone seen the video today where Slot's hugging Trent, being like, "Oh, man of the match twice"? Paul Scholes talks.
Paul Scholes has got no personality. He was a phenomenal player, but I'd rather watch paint dry than listen to him talk. He's got no substance.
Genuinely, yeah.
So
Honestly, I watch the overlap questions thing where he does like 26 questions.
Yeah.
I really like him, but Paul Scholes is the dullest of them all. Like, it's ridiculous. It's awful to listen to. We are going to shoot in a moment, guys. Just before we do, please, everyone, and I've just completely nearly closed all the tabs, which have been really bad. But yeah, everyone, please make sure to click like and subscribe. We're close to 11,000, actually. Maybe we can try and get there by the next international break. We're only 130 something away. So yeah, let's see if we can try and get that by the next international break, just to set a bit of a target for ourselves. And Jamie says, just before we go, Scholes should worry about Man United, £113 debt just declared. Completely agree, because 3/4 of that is for Anthony, and that's not worth the trouble, let's be honest. So yeah, we are going to shoot then. Jamie says, cheers, Lou, Reese, Race for Stitches, and the chat. That was a mouthful. You'll never walk alone. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you want to, for the next stream as well, head over to YouTube to get involved in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and for these guys for being involved, and we'll see you all in the next stream tomorrow, which will be a preview of the Nottingham Forest match this weekend.